Let's go. All right. I do have a few questions queued up. We're going to kick it off with Jack's question. He says, I am 25 and currently building my own business after leaving a lucrative career. So this year I will have very little income. How can I take advantage of a low income year? And I mean, he's starting a business too, guys. Like, what can you what food for thought can you give him as he embarks on this journey this year?
Well, I think about as someone who is starting a business, and frankly, you're starting business pretty early on, right? Like 25 is still very, very young. And I love the idea that you're thinking, okay, I know that my income's going to be lower now than it has been previously. Are there things that I should be thinking about? Are there ways I should take advantage of that? And while I like that mindset, I think for any brand new entrepreneur or someone who is like very early on in their entrepreneurial journey, you have to keep in mind that one of the things you want to really make sure you do is you maintain enough liquidity in this small business so that you can last through the up times and the down times of the early years. Because Brian, you've said this 1,000 times. When you start a business, it's not like you hang your sign up and all of a sudden customers start coming in and there's no roadblocks. It can be hard. It can be tumultuous. And a lot of small businesses don't even make it past years 2, 3, or 4. So if you're very early on in this, I think rather than thinking about like optimization strategies and how can I take advantage of the low income and are there things I could do? I mean, sure, you can accelerate capital gains. And if your income is low enough, you can pay a 0% capital gain. You can do that kind of stuff. You can certainly do Roth contributions. We'll talk about that when we talk about the financial order of operations. But the big thing I would encourage you is don't get so far out ahead of yourself strategizing that you're not focusing on making sure you're keeping appropriate liquidity so that when things maybe are a little bit tighter, or maybe when that capital you initially started with begins to wane, you have enough liquidity behind you to give you the staying power to push on to the next phase of your business.
Yeah, Jack, I mean, I wrote 3 quick notes, but I will kind of give you the experience share of exactly what Bo was talking about. And back in 2002, when I started my first business, I remember that if I had not built up enough cash to carry me those first 3 years, this thing wouldn't be what it is today. Because here's the thing, just like it sounds like you had a great income you left. I left right at 6 figures, went all the way down. I think the first year I made $17,000. So it was
an intense drop.
It was a very intense drop, but fortunately I put on my 3D glasses. So I had the dream plan of, oh my gosh, this is why we're doing this, so I can spend more time with my family, but also will have financial success. Then there's a down-to-earth plan of what I think will happen, but of course I also built a plan understanding the doo-doo plan. And I gotta tell you, I'm not so sure my business startup didn't look more like the doo-doo plan for the first 3 years, because it is interesting when you look back on and dissect what success is. I'm not so sure you look at the first 4 to 5 years of my entrepreneurship vision and you say, so that's why you got to make sure you have enough cash to make it through that journey. So then, yes, 10 years in the future, people go, man, you made that look easy. But like, yeah, you weren't there those first 2 to 3 years where it was pretty rough. So pay attention to the cash. If you need access to cash or turn investment assets into cash, that's what you can lean into what Bo was talking about, because if your income is low enough, there is a 0% capital gains tax for people. I think for married couples, it's around $80,000. For singles, it's around $40,000. You could get access, but it's more of just a survival and then prospering and building upon success is the way to make things work initially, and then we'll get into optimization after you've kind of reached some less choppy waters out there from the beginning of your endeavor.
But I still think even in this journey, the foo will not lead you astray. Brian, will you hold the thing up for me? If you want to check your copy out, moneyguide.com/resources. If you're working through the financial order of operations, and even as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, when you get to step 4, emergency reserves, let's say that you've accounted for that, and you know that, okay, I'm supposed to have like 3 to 6 months of expenses, but because I'm an entrepreneur, maybe I've got 12 months of expenses, so I feel really good there. You can continue on in the financial order. There's nothing wrong with going to step 5 and say, hey, you know what, I have a high deductible plan. I can fund an HSA, or you know what? our income now will allow us to contribute directly to Ross. I'm going to go ahead and do Ross. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing those things so long as you don't get out of order. You want to make sure step 4 is completely funded, especially for small business owners, before you start going into 5, 6, or 7.